In 1986, a high school senior named Sharon Marshall had the entire world open to her. She was brilliant, universally well-liked by her peers, and possessed a seemingly limitless potential for the future. Looking at these students in their ROTC uniforms, you can see the exact type of environment where Sharon thrived. She had climbed the ranks to become a lieutenant colonel in the program. Her hard work paid off with a full-ride scholarship to the Georgia Institute of Technology, where she planned to study aerospace engineering and eventually work for NASA. Then, her trajectory completely fractured. During her senior year, Sharon secretly navigated a pregnancy, gave birth in hiding, and allowed a wealthy couple to adopt the baby boy. She abandoned her college scholarship entirely. Instead of heading to a prestigious university, she moved to Tampa, Florida to start over. She arrived there with a much older, aggressive man named Franklin Delano Floyd. This move marked the next phase of a system of captivity that Frank had been building around her since she was a child. The suburban life they established in Florida was the visible mask for her imprisonment. Once settled in Florida, Sharon became pregnant a second time. She chose to keep the child, a boy she named Michael, and attempted to build a domestic life with Frank. She became the sole provider, working as an exotic dancer to pay the bills. Her co-workers, particularly an 18-year-old named Cheryl Camesso, knew Sharon for her profound kindness and her warm, highly social personality. Behind closed doors, Frank exerted total control over her existence. Claiming a bad back kept him from holding a job, he relied entirely on Sharon's income and government welfare checks. He forced them to constantly move across state lines and required Sharon to use multiple aliases to avoid detection. Frank's aggression frequently spilled into public view. He physically punched Sharon's friend Cheryl outside their workplace during an argument and openly warned others he would kill Sharon if she ever tried to leave. Sharon spent years navigating these two worlds, the warm camaraderie of the dance club and the violent isolation of her home. She maintained her public persona of kindness, even while Frank monitored her every move and threatened her life. Fearing for her own safety and the life of her young son, Sharon quietly started making plans to leave Frank for a man she met at the club. Before she could execute her escape, Sharon was discovered unconscious along a stretch of highway surrounded by heavy traffic. It looked like the aftermath of a hit-and-run, but the brutal head injury and old bruises on her body immediately raised alarms. She was rushed to the hospital and actually began showing signs of recovery. But Frank suddenly stepped in, banning her friends from visiting without explanation. Days later, Sharon unexpectedly died from her injuries. Frank attempted to cash an $80,000 life insurance policy, but his fake Social Security numbers were repeatedly rejected. Finally, using his true identity, Franklin Delano Floyd, the name matched an outstanding federal warrant for abduction, immediately exposing him to authorities. Frank's sheer greed over a payout fractured his carefully built illusion. It turned a suspicious local hit-and-run investigation into a federal manhunt. With the police closing in, Frank went on the run. But a few years later, he tracked down little Michael, who had been placed in foster care in Oklahoma. Frank walked into the boys' elementary school, held the principal at gunpoint, and vanished with the child. He was eventually captured 2 months later in Kentucky. Safe behind concrete walls, Frank refused to tell anyone what he had done with Michael, leading a judge to hand down a 50-year prison sentence. While Frank sat in a cell, a mechanic in Kansas purchased a stolen truck at an auction that Frank had abandoned while on the run. Hidden inside the vehicle was a large envelope containing 97 photographs. Those images provided the evidence needed to link Frank to the murder of Sharon's missing friend, Cheryl Camesso. But they contained something even more disturbing: photographs showing Frank assaulting an unidentified young girl decades earlier. The search for a missing boy had collided with the history of a serial predator. His crimes reached back decades, hidden behind a trail of stolen identities and multiple states. The case remained an unsolved horror until 2014, when modern forensics finally identified the young girl in those old hidden photographs. It was Sharon herself. The truth was that Sharon Marshall never existed. Her real name was Suzanne Savarkis, and she was a child Frank had kidnapped in the mid-1970s. This chart maps out the reality of Suzanne's life. If we overlay the timeline of Sharon's public achievements, we see that Frank, who was briefly her stepfather, abducted her as a child. He raised her under false names, subjected her to years of abuse, forced her into marriage as an adult, and ultimately caused her death. Suzanne's life as Sharon was an astonishing testament to human endurance. Every grade she earned, every friend she made, and every day she survived proved her incredible strength to achieve brilliance while captive to a monster.
Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Unsolved. Do comment below for more videos. See you in the next one.